Hey guys, welcome to the DeTour Live again. We're ready to repack more carnage at the Giro. I'm joined as always by four-time National Road title winner Johnny Trevorrow and Olympic gold medalist Scotty McGrory. Fellas, where do we start? I suppose before we get to the carnage, geez, a close finish. You called the winner, Scotty.
I did, but he was the favourite by a fair bit anyway, wasn't he? But look how close that was. And you do feel for Sagan. I think we all feel the same here, that he's trying to get that win. Hasn't had a win for a year, but Arnaud Démare, the French champ, just got him on the line, and then Ballerini in third place. So good ride by him as well. But Sagan, his team did an incredible job. It was a really interesting stage. I watched the whole thing live and thought, wow, this is far more interesting than I was expecting it to be. We didn't get the breakaway that Whitey said yesterday might happen. You were talking up Thomas de Gent, Dan, about perhaps getting on him if he's to get into a breakaway.
Yeah, dummy dough.
But Bora just drove it over the Cat 3 climb to try and get rid of the sprinters. They got rid of two of them. So Viviani went out the back and Gaviria, but Démare was fine. So he hung on. He was still there. Viviani got back, and then the chase to get Gaviria back into the group for the sprint was amazing. They got to 15 seconds off the back and then blew. So then it became a sprint between Démare, Sagan, Ballerini and the guys. Viviani got back and finished fifth, so good ride by him. But Sagan, he went early. He went into the windy side of the sprints. He had to fight behind the wheel of Arnaud Démare, which is really interesting because he had a lead-out train. So Sagan and everybody else were fighting for the rear wheel of Démare. And it was kind of like, maybe think about Mario Cipollini back in the day when Seiko were doing the lead out. Chippo always had this great ride all the way to the sprint. Everyone else was fighting for Chippo's wheel. And it was a little bit like that last night. Sagan had to fight for Démare's wheel. And that just cost him. I reckon just that little bit of extra energy he has to waste probably cost him the 2 centimetres he needed.
Well, he took it pretty well in his post-race interview. Here's a snippet of that.
Well, I did my best, and sprint is like that. Sometimes I won, a lot of times for a few centimeters. Sometimes I lose. It's like that.
It's just like that, Iffy. See, that's a better attitude. Instead of blaming, if this had happened, if that had happened, maybe you should have been a little bit more like Sagan, John.
He's no Iffy, is he? No, Démare was the man, but as I said, Scotty, well picked. I thought they would have really, that hill would have been much more decisive, but they tried. I mean, Sagan had his Bora boys boring along on the front, but that wasn't enough to get rid of Démare.
And as we always say on every episode, keep the comments coming in. I was starting to stress because Wendy hadn't sent a comment, but she's reassured me. Hi, guys, I'm here. So, hey, Wendy. Now, obviously, there was a lot of carnage. The Ween Dog, he went down. He hit a stray bottle. I mean, have you seen a start to a Grandy where stray bottles have taken out so many riders so early?
It's Bottlegate.
Yeah. The Ween Dog.
Yeah, but it's all been. So this one was he just he got a bottle from one of his staff members on the side of the road, and as he was going to put it back into his cage, he hit a stray bottle. So he was one-handed. He might have been okay if he had both hands on the bars. It was just one of those racing incidents.
Yeah.
So that was a shame for him. But it's what a coincidence that it's a couple of bottles that have taken guys out. And I know you mentioned the Ween Dog, Peter Weening, on the show last night. But isn't it interesting? He's 39 and he's riding at the Giro this year for Trek Segafredo after doing the transfer mid-season, which is quite unusual for a 39-year-old. I'd actually like to maybe on the rest day, Dan, you could Peter to come on because it'd be good to hear his story because I reckon that's great.
Well, he just had a kid this year as well. So he's a father. He's obviously thinking, well, might as well go back to the well and earn a bit more bank. He's probably got a few expenses coming up. But Ween Dog was amazing the way he used to train. So in the off season, as soon as the last race was done, he'd give himself 4 to 5 weeks where he could just let his hair down, drink as many beers as he wanted. 1 year they used to always give the Dutch riders free trip to Curacao in the I think it's those group of islands that are owned by Holland in the Caribbean. And mate, all expenses paid. It was awesome. Sagan went there 1 year with his brother and they give you like a per diem, 2,000 euros just to spend on grog, basically. But I used to say to Ween Dog, a lot of other riders, like, they don't really let their hair down. He said, it's rubbish. You know, it's not sustainable. You know, you've got to have a time to just reset. But he goes, I tell you, when I train harder than anyone. Like, I don't know anyone that trains as hard as me, and he just smashes himself. So, you know, Johnny used to do the same thing, but not the smashing himself in the training. So,
well, John, you'd know. The stories about Alan Piper. You know, we always refer to Alan as just the ultimate professional's professional back in the day. But the stories I heard about Al was that at the end of the season, he told me this, at the end of the season, he would be super strict on his diet through the off season. And for the first week or so, he would do a complete detox where he'd just have like a juice diet for 5 or 6 days or something, just to completely strip the body of all the toxins that he'd built up over the season. And then was super strict on his diet, because back in his time, you didn't have a chef traveling to the Grand Tours with your team. You just ate whatever they had at the restaurants. So you had to basically just, you know, if you wanted to be a vegan, too bad, you can't, because you have to just eat what they gave you at the hotel. So in the off season was the only time he could be absolutely 100% about what he wanted to put in his body and fuel himself. So he's probably fitter and leaner in his off seasons than he was during the actual racing season.
Yeah, but he was a fanatic. He was a fanatic on the food. He was a vegetarian for a lot of his career. He said he had to start eating meat because he couldn't get the right food during the season, but mostly he was a vegetarian. And Prof Brotherton used to look after him. From he was an English Olympian who came out here and stayed in Australia, but he was a fanatic as well, and he was he was a guru, and he actually put Alan on the path of a lot of that different lifestyle.
Who did you have looking after you, John, putting you on your path? What were you like in the off season?
Sid Patterson.
My father used to try and put me down the path, but I kept taking the wrong turns.
But remember as well, Scotty, in 2009, there was that revolution with Garmin when they'd only eat white meat. It was like fish or chicken. And it was like, this is unbelievable.
No pasta, just rice.
Yep.
Another one. Yeah.
Yep. A lot of myths going around there. Now we've got a few people saying g'day as well. Gary, how are you, mate? Hi, Dan, Iffy and Scooter. And Sheila's back in from Good Morning All from New Orleans, USA. And we had an issue. One of our episodes, the one yesterday, got blocked from YouTube. So we're going to re-upload without the Ween Dog, I think, the Vision from 2014, third umpire, red light. So we'll bounce back.
Do you know what the backstory is there, Dan? Like, how are they finding that kind of footage? Like, it wasn't very long.
Algorithm. So a lot of the races will put in like the Vision, and it just scans. And as soon as it finds the match, all right, that's it, you're done. So I think that backstage was taken down as well. Which, you know, you've got fair use. I mean, we're using it for commentary purposes. We're essentially a news service.
Absolutely.
But it takes a process. You've got to go through, like, you've got to dispute when it comes down, all this sort of stuff. So we'll just re-upload it without the Ween Dog in it. But also there was a lot of drama with the helicopter that blew the barricade. Now, this has happened a few times before. I remember at Tour of Beijing one year, the barricade cleaned up a whole heap of riders, and that took out Luca Wackerman and Etienne Van Empel. Now, Wackerman was taken to hospital in Messina by ambulance, and it was later reported that he had multiple injuries in the crash, including concussion, suspected lumbosacral, that sounds about right, fracture, and a broken nose. So this opens up a bit of a Pandora's box, boys. You're both on the back end of organising events. Who's responsible?
John is.
Well, I mean, you're blaming me or you're asking me? I'm not sure, Scotty.
No, what happened to you?
I didn't do it. That's what I didn't do. Obviously, the chopper came down too low, and Whitey actually mentioned it too. They're trying to get into really clever shots, and they're coming down too low, too close, and you can't do that. I can remember it was at Tour of Poland a couple of years ago. There was a crash because the chopper just came down really low to the bunch, and guys went off the road everywhere. So it's just ridiculous.
How long before
at the Sun Tour one year? Sorry, Dan. Sun Tour. As you come into Mansfield, there's a section of the road where the road sort of just drops down and goes down this hill and it's really straight. and we could see the chopper right down in front of us. And it's like, oh, and I remember thinking, oh, that's a really cool, spot to be. This will be a great shot. But as we got closer, we realised he was too low, and the peloton just went woof off the road, just blew everybody all over the place. And they were told, nice shot, but get out of the way. Now, Wackerman was he's 28. It was his Giro debut, but they asked him, if he knew where he was, etc. He didn't know that he'd crashed, and he didn't know that he was riding the Giro. So this is day four, and he didn't know at first that he's even riding the Giro.
Yeah, that's not good. But how long till they just use drones? If you get drones that can have pretty good battery life, you don't need helicopters to do a lot of this stuff. It won't be long before they just take them out altogether.
Oh, you'd need long battery though, wouldn't it? If you've got a 4, 5, 6 hour stage,
Yeah, but those military drones, they've got the technology. Just talk to Trump. He'll sling you a couple for the coverage for sure.
Yeah, he'll give you the codes as well. You could take the breakaway out if you're not able to catch it.
Yeah, that's right. And also on the backstage, I liked Simon Yates. He seemed in pretty good spirits on the back of his dreadful stage 3.
A bit of a disaster, really, but hey, that's cycling. That's how it goes. You win some, you lose some. We'll keep plugging away. We'll see. Maybe not today because I think it's going to be a sprint. I mean, I could try, but no. I mean, there's still a long way to Milan. I know that's a bit of a cliche, but no, we'll see.
Now that's always good. Just get the rider the next day. Don't try and get the interview that night. Let them process it. Next day, they've digested it all. We're right. We've still got 3 weeks, so he's in good spirits. I think we should get straight into the chat with Matt White. We spoke to him earlier today, and he was on the bus. They've had some monster transfers, so he gives us a few insights into that as well. Sports Director Matt White, you're on the bus, mate. Got yourself a nice brew?
Yeah, mate. She's early morning this morning. She's 7:30 in the morning. We're leaving before 8 o'clock, so we've got a bit of a transfer to the start, and then a mega day today, 225 kilometres plus 10K neutral, 4,000 metres plus of climbing, and then a nice little transfer after the stage to the hotel. So assume you're 12 or 13 hours door to door, I reckon.
Do you have to go over on the ferry this morning, or did you go over last night?
No, we caught the ferry last night, so we got to the hotel pretty late last night. There was a couple of incidents in the final yesterday with some crashes with some other teams, and so the ferry was booked for just specifically for the teams, and we got stuck at the terminal for a little while. Got to the hotel at about 9 o'clock last night. Boys went straight, got a massage, then went to dinner, and then off to bed.
I just on that crash, I saw Cycling News. Brent Brookwater was talking about like it almost cleaned him up with the helicopter, and there needs to be a little bit more responsibility. We always talk about rider safety, but what do you think the fallout of that incident is going to be?
I'm not sure how civil liability cases go down here in Italy, but that was a messy one, eh? That helicopter had been I'd seen during the first few stages had done some pretty risky moves. It's just a little bit too close to the bunch, trying to get the arty shots in the valley. But I didn't see the incident, but I just heard that he came a bit too low, and the wind that he created flew the barricades into a couple of riders and took out one rider quite seriously.
Yeah, it's bloody filthy. But anyway, the stage profile today, mate. What are you expecting?
A nasty start. So it goes uphill for 2 to 3 kilometres straight out of the holes. And then if the brake hasn't gone in that first 5 minutes, it could go for a long time. And I'd expect a big group to go down the road today because there's so many guys off general classification. We haven't got a strong leader at the moment. The young fella who's winning is not an overall GC threat, I wouldn't have thought. And Quickstep haven't got the team that could bring a big break back today on that sort of course. So the idea for us is to put someone at least in the breakaway. Ideally for us, Jack Haig would be the man. He lost a little bit of time in the running you saw yesterday. That was a deliberate move, so he'd get a little bit more off general classification. So he's not a direct threat to if he's at 3 or 4 minutes. then those GC teams, he has got a good history of climbing. That they see him as a threat. But now I think he's at 8 minutes now. He should be pretty safe to join a big group in that first hour of racing today.
Is today a bit of a chance for a bit of redemption for Simon? I mean, to see how he's going in that final climb, because it's normally it'd be right up his alley.
Oh, look, I think if we can manage, if Simon can finish with the best climbers behind today, I'll be pretty happy. I think we've got a couple more days after today to regroup and before the real tough stuff starts again on stage 9. But if he can finish with the likes of Nibley and Foolscane, it's a long climb today. It's not super tough. I think it's 18 kilometers long, but it averages around about 5%. So I don't expect too much fireworks in the second part of the race. As in there'll be 2 races today. There'll be one for the win. And there'll be a GC battle, and I think if Simon can hold the wheel of the best climbers today, I think he'll do a lot for his confidence and give us another couple of days to regroup before bigger mountain stages start again.
Some great insights there from Whitey. What do you reckon, Scotty? Looking at that stage preview.
The first thing is just the transfers. The Giro is notorious for these massive transfers. Obviously, they had to get across from Sicily to the boot, and they're now in the toe of the boot on the mainland. But this happens all the way through the Giro. There's really big transfers, and that does take a toll on the riders eventually. They probably shouldn't be too bad or too fatigued from just that transfer for today, but eventually it will. Like another 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 days, it makes the Giro really, really brutal. What a terrible way to start a bike race, 2K straight uphill. Now, for the good guys, it's not going to matter. But for the sprinters and some of the domestiques, the guys that are already a long way behind, there's nothing worse than starting straight uphill. You just hope that everybody takes it easy until they get over the top of that first little pinch, but they won't, because it's such a good opportunity for breaks to go. So I think it's going to be really hard. It's going to be tough. The climb is big, so 23 Ks or so. Average gradient's not so bad, but the middle section, there's about 5 Ks where it's between 6 and 9%, and 1 kilometre over 11%. So that's hard. And what's going to be really exciting is the descent. If Nibley's right there and he's feeling good, watch out for Vincenzo Nibali on the descent, trying to put everybody else under pressure coming into the finish. That could be really dangerous.
Well, here's part 2 of our chat with Matt White earlier today. Hey, Whitey, how are the staff holding up? I mean, it is pretty taxing when you've got these late transfers, particularly with the mechanics and Soigniers and with the early starts today. How are they all travelling?
They're good, mate. It's early days. But, no, they're good. We've got the big chunk of our staff here are Italian, and obviously it's their race. They love it, and they're really motivated. It'll drag on a little bit in that third week, as it always does. But no, the staff are going well, and this is an early morning today. But it's if you're not into this sort of work, then you're in the wrong gig.
Yeah, exactly. And what was on the menu last night, mate?
I had swordfish again last night. Swordfish, and double up on swordfish. This was a much better dish. Not raw, but very well cooked swordfish last night, and some very tasty local pasta dish. So pretty standard. It was a late one last night. I had dinner about 10 o'clock, 10:30. But that's why I'm having a cup of tea for breakfast. I'm still digesting last night's dinner.
How does the body go with eating so much pasta when you're not used to it? Can sort of clog people up.
Oh, mate, I go pretty sparingly on the pasta, but I just have I don't eat as big a breakfast the next morning. I didn't get a chance to run or walk this morning because it was pitch black and we're on the side of a mountain. But a little bit of gym this morning. But usually I get out for a run or a walk, and it's a good way to start the day after you're just still digesting last night's dinner.
Is it an early start today as well? Is it earlier start, or it's just the drive?
Yeah, it is. It is because as you know, we're in autumn now. And we're running out of daylight. So these long stages, if we started them at 12 o'clock, 12:30 in the day, they'd finish. They could potentially finish at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and it's getting dark. So the stage is starting a little bit earlier, and we've got a little bit of transfer either end.
All right. Well, hang in there, mate. Enjoy the day today. And yeah, as you said, Jack Haig, I think the bookies have got him as second favourite. So I think they're all expecting him to put in a good ride. So fingers crossed it all
Really?
works out. Yeah, second favourite.
Yeah, okay.
It's wide
So,
open.
no, it'd be good if we get a big group. If Jack was in there, it'd be ideal scenario. If it's big enough, then someone like Cam Meyer, Damien Howson in there with him would be great.
Yeah. All right. Well, all the best today, mate. And thanks for joining us again. And good luck with the transfer.
Yep. It's, the Giro, mate. You got to switch on and off.
Yeah, that's right.
On and off.
Yeah.
Thanks, bud.
Good on you,
All right,
mate.
gents. Have a good day.
Yeah, mate. Bye.
See you, mate. Righto, boys. I've gone podcast fishing, and I'm becoming a bit of a master. I've hooked one. Matty Wilson. How are you, Matty?
Good, thanks, Dan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm always good, mate. Where are you at the moment? You're in the Belgian Classics.
Yeah, Belgian Classics. It's different end of the year than it should be, but it's the same temperature, 8 degrees outside, nice and chilly.
Oh, yeah? You've been nicking into those triple fried frits?
I have indulged in a frit or two, yes, a couple of Duvals.
How's the squad for the Classics at the moment?
Yeah, look, not too bad. Obviously, very disrupted build-up for a very special year in that regard. Our best guy, Durbo, is really concentrating on the TT World, so he's got a bit of endurance base to catch up on before next week. But, we're here at Brabantse today, and we've got a really young squad, but they're very motivated, and they're coming up against probably the best field ever seen at Brabantse.
Yeah, I was talking to Joachim, and he said that there's a bit of an issue with obviously the spread of COVID. I think a few people are quite concerned that it may get to the point where they can't race again. Is there much chatter about the COVID situation over in Belgium at the moment?
Look, the races have got really, really strict protocols. Had a big meeting about it last night and the stuff that they're putting in place. So the races are doing all they can. As far as the general public goes, I mean, I'm not following the news here and the newspaper, so I'm not sure, what the feeling is.
Yep.
You
there. The Belgian Wi-Fi, that's a bigger issue than COVID at the moment. Can you hear us, mate? Hey, your audio's just cut out. You there? He's just adjusting his microphone. Can you hear us, Matty?
It's just on the fly, mate. Good pickup, though, getting a DS last second.
Yeah. Now it looks like
me?
Matty's face is frozen. Can you hear us? Yeah, we can hear you. It's all working again.
Yep,
Iffy?
yep. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, so it's Ghent Wevelgem on the weekend. So the Belgian races seem to be going okay, but I hear there's a strong rumour going around that Paris-Roubaix might get cancelled.
Yeah, well, Roubaix is a hot spot at the moment, and obviously Paris is in semi-lockdown now as well. But the race starts a fair way out of Paris, so I don't think that's a concern. But I think the finish in Roubaix is a concern. Obviously, keeping the crowds away is a concern. So let's see which way it goes. The ASO's shown with the Tour de France they can do a good job, and they've obviously got a lot of power in France. So we'll see.
Matty, how's everyone going mentally, knowing that normally this time of year you're really sort of winding things down in October? How's everyone holding up given the big change in the season?
Yeah, different guys seem to be reacting to it different ways. Some really stepping up. They can see the opportunities here. They've been building up to this, and it's the classics, and they're excited. And the end of season races are still some of their biggest goals. So those guys are adapting well. And then there's guys that are really, you can see the cracks appearing, and they really do look like it's October. So. Depends on the rider.
Yeah.
What about
Matty?
What about the logistics of being such a condensed season? How hard is it for you and for the staff to try and manage so many races at the same time? Resources surely have to start going a little bit thin.
Yeah, good question. It has been really hard on the staff. We're creating these bubbles inside the races as well. So, for example, one of our Belgian soigneurs here he's done the Dauphiné, did the Tour de France, Basically came home for a few days, and then he went to races in Belgium, where ordinarily he'd go home, every other day, and he can't because we're in a bubble here, and we can't have outside contact. So it's cases like that, cases like myself, where I had to go over to Europe for 3 months and leave my family in Australia. So everyone's having to suck it up a bit and take one for the team and realise that it's a special year and just get through it.
Now, said goodbye to a legend of the team, Michael Albacini. His last race was Liège. He's been an unbelievable talent for the team over the journey, given that he was there, obviously, since its inception.
Yeah, he has. It was, a little bit emotional, actually. Gave him a big hug at the finish and had a couple of beers there, and people got on the bus and said goodbye. And, and it took me back to when I retired as well. It's a funny thing, and he's had such an amazing career. He's a big part of, so many of our victories from the start, and, losing Darryl Lumpy next year as well. You losing those last sort of core guys that we had from the beginning. So a bit sad, but, life goes on.
Well, tell the viewers the story about your last race, mate. That was an eventful day.
Yeah, it was. I picked Hamburg, sort of a mid-season race that I always enjoyed doing as my last race, and had a good group of guys there ready to go, and we're going to go out and have a bit of a celebration afterwards. And I crossed the line and sat down and cracked a beer open, and I'm wondering where everyone was. And I kept waiting and waiting, and then I found out there was a massive pile-up on the finish line, and half the guys were in hospital. And then 2 others had doping control. I was just sitting there by myself, and then went back to the hotel room, and that was it.
Classic. So what are your chances today, mate?
Look, slim. I'll be honest. It's a really amazing field that they've got here. It's last race for a lot of guys. And they've got the world champion here, Matthew van der Poel. So look, there's a really quality field. But like I said, we've got a young team in form, and it's a really attacking sort of a race. I don't know if you've seen it, Dan, but it's a beauty of a race. So I'd expect a very exciting final.
Well, there'll be plenty of diehard Belgies, hopefully all wearing masks and social distancing. But they love it over there. So, got anything to add, Iffy, before we go?
Yeah. So what? So you're going right through to Flanders and Roubaix as well?
No, I leave tomorrow and go down south and head to the Vuelta.
Okay. Oh, gee, you got another Grand Tour, mate.
What's the squad like for the Vuelta?
Yeah, great. We've got. I don't know if it's been released yet. I don't know if I can say, actually. You nearly got me there.
Well, you can wait. Taryn will rip you a new one. Just say it's great.
Yeah.
And we've got ambitions to win stages. And, that's fine. But it's a race of 3 weeks. So, time will tell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just on the Vuelta, every year it's one of the more. The Tour de France this year was incredible. It was very entertaining to watch. But the Vuelta at the end of the season every year is very unpredictable, and therefore, as a fan, it's very exciting to watch. I'd imagine it's probably going to be even more unpredictable. It's so hard for teams just for the riders to fill them with guys on form. What are you expecting of the Vuelta?
Yeah, well, much the same. And look, you've got the added bit of flavour in there that the stages seem to be changing every week. There's too much snow on a mountain. They've got to cancel that. This town's got a lockdown, so they've got to go around that. So, you throw in the fact that, this race is happening in end of October into November. You've got these stages changing. It's just so many unknowns. So, yeah, I'd expect a very exciting, unpredictable race.
So when do you finally get back to Australia, Matty?
Well, I think I land around the 30th of October. I leave just before the Vuelta, the last half. I don't do. And then I've got obviously a couple of weeks there in quarantine, and then I'll be back home. So I should be back home sort of middle of November.
All right, I'll send you a list of good docos to watch, and there's a couple of good series coming out at the moment. So, we'll share notes.
Great.
All right. Thanks for joining us on the DeTour, Matty. Appreciate it, and all the best today, mate.
No problem.
On you, Matty.
Guys.
On you,
Bye.
mate.
Bye.
Legend, Matty Wilson. We've got a few comments coming in. Jason, our mate from the Maldives, he says, looking forward to today's stage. Could be an interesting one, particularly who's going to control the race. More likely Trek, and there will be some attacking opportunities. So that's a good point.
He's spot on. He's spot on there.
He knows his bikes. Graham Pont, good evening, guys, from Sheffield, Tasmania. Love the detour, new viewer, and fully hooked. Ben says, looks like the ASX charts for CBA since 2009. That's the stage profile. And Stuart says, when will Jack Hay get a chance to be the nominated GC contender in a Grand Tour? He seems like he has what it takes to figure at the pointy end after 3 weeks. That's a good question.
Yeah, well,
with Bahrain.
Yeah, so now he's going to Bahrain. And we'll see how things develop there. You know, he's last season he was great. This year, yeah, everything's been up in the air, hasn't it? But he's super dedicated, very, very committed to his cycling. So we will see improved Jack Haig over the next couple of years, because he does percentage-wise just get a little bit better every season. So another 2, 3, 4 years, maybe. Hope so.
Yep. And a quick shout out to Jenny. How are you? And Mark Watkin. Good evening from the Watt Bike Team detour. So Johnny, it's your time to shine, mate. Let's give Mitchelton a bit of a plug, eh? Open up the shoulders.
The Mitchelton Hotel, Mitchelton Winery on the beautiful banks of the Goulburn River, just out of Nagambie. And as you see in that photo, that's the actual hotel. Magnificent rooms with every room has a beautiful view of the river on either side. Wonderful swimming pool there. Fantastic restaurant for breakfast, lunch and dinner. And beautiful wines, of course. Mitchelton Heathcote Shiraz is my favourite, but there's enormous. They do a beautiful rosé. They do a sparkling Shiraz, which is absolutely to die for. I got stuck into that last week. Found that very, very tasty.
I've never had a sparkling Shiraz.
Yeah, they do it. It's fantastic, and it's actually got like a bottle top. Like a beer bottle top instead of a screw top. It's a bit different, but it's very, very tasty. And of course, it's the most beautiful part of the world. You know, just that way, Lake Nagambie all up there as well. So when the lockdown unlocks, get up there as soon as you can. And rural Victoria, you can get up there now. I was there last week.
Yep. I thought Gippsland was the most beautiful part of the world. You guys would have to concur, wouldn't you? To Gippy boys.
It's a lovely part of the world, but I just I'm sold on the Nagambie.
The stages we had in the Herald Sun Tour down through there were amazing, that's for sure. And same up around Nagambie. It is. Hey, I was just looking at the sorry guys, to interrupt. I was just looking at the start list for the Brabant's Appeal that we just crossed to Matt Wilson in. It's fair dinkum cracker. Some of the riders: Matthew Van der Poel, Julian Alaphilippe, Tim Vellens, John Degenkolb, showing Dylan Toons, Roman Bardet, Kwiatkowski. You know, it's Gasparotto. It's a full on. It's a great field. Yeah. So that'll be a good one.
Well, that's the thing with the condensed season. We've got so much great racing to come. Like that Super Sunday, if Roubaix goes ahead with the Giro, the Vuelta, and Roubaix all falling in on that Sunday, is going to be unbelievable. So the old GCN pass, you'll be flicking. Do they do split screen?
I'm going to have to buy another monitor, I think.
Yeah.
Another device, yeah.
All right, here's a quick word from our great mates at Bike Exchange.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Now, we want to say a quick cheerio to Gracie Elvin. She announced her retirement. Amazing career, two-time Aussie national road title winner, and also the only Australian woman to end up on the podium at Tour of Flanders, which is 2017. Fantastic service to the sport of Australian cycling, Iffy.
Oh, for sure. And I know that we're going to try and get her on for a chat sometime over the next couple of days. But no, she's a superstar. And I was surprised she actually is giving it away because, you think she'd have a couple of more years in her if she really wanted to. But it'd be interesting to talk to her about why.
Mm.
Well, it also opens up the debate, John, about, if she was like in the men's peloton earning whatever, a few $100,000 a year, no doubt she would keep going. But the women don't get paid anything like the men, so they have to think about what the next career choice is going to be. So I guess that's the disparity that we see between the men's and women's pelotons, that hopefully that they can do the career that they want, rather than the necessity of having to find something to go on with the rest of their life because they're not getting enough money from cycling, which is the disappointing thing.
And also like the issue of the coverage. I mean, it was spoken about a couple of weeks ago, but the Giro Rosa, how they didn't have live coverage, and as a result, they've been stripped of their UCI rating or whatever. That just shouldn't happen. I get that it's COVID. I get the expenses with covering things live and things like that, but they really dropped the ball iffy on that one. Oh,
yes,
you're right.
Sorry, mate.
Is that a dry cough? You got a fever?
They didn't even notify the UCI that they were not going to have the live coverage, and that is a part of the requirements to have a World Tour race, and so they had no choice but to strip them of the World Tour status for next year.
Mm. Now, Scotty, you sent me a video, which was Amy Gillett's mother receiving the news that they were going to be changing the metre matters rule in Victoria. It'd taken a long time. So let's play the video first, and then we'll have a bit of a discussion afterwards. But this is when she found out the news that law was going to be in place.
Today, Minister Ben Carroll and Premier Daniel Andrews announced that a metre matters is being passed in Victoria.
Tell me that again. They Ben Carroll and Minister and Dan Andrews announced
that a metre matters is being passed in Victoria.
Oh, that's a big one. Oh my gosh. Oh, look. First and foremost, congratulations to all the people who've worked so hard for this. And I'm just so thrilled because, for cyclists in Victoria, I know that this legislation, it saves lives. Yeah, I feel, yeah. Yeah, really happy, Dan. Yeah, it's been a long time coming for a lot of people who've worked so hard. And it's going to take a little while for that to sink in.
Are you okay? How are you?
Yeah, I feel, of course, there's so much emotion there, Dan, to hear that news, but there's also relief. There's also relief that this is actually going to happen. Yeah.
Great news, Dan. Great news.
Dennis
Are you there, Dennis? Where are you?
Yeah, great news.
Come in here.
That's right. Great news, Dan. Here I am.
Keep going a bit more.
Great news.
Thanks, Dennis. It's
well done. Well done.
Dan, I can remember. I can't recall the year, but I was in the city in Adelaide, and I had a phone call from the then CEO of the foundation, who was Tracy Gaudry, and she told me in that phone call that Queensland had adopted the legislation, and I couldn't. I was crying wherever I was on the phone. I couldn't believe it. So this is just the icing on the cake, Dan. Well, all I can say is I hope I can hear the cheering in my state of South Australia when that's announced for not only cyclists but drivers as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's huge, and this is why I wanted to get you on, because your reaction is exactly how a lot of us feel, that it's overdue and it's wonderful, and it's Amy's legacy, and it's so much.
Yeah, amazing vision. Like it really just demonstrates the passion to do the right thing. And Scotty, how did it take so long to get that passed?
Well, okay. So as you heard, Victoria was the last state to pass the safe passing laws. And look, we know it's just common sense. If you've got other people, you've got all the different road users, it just makes sense to make sure that everybody that's on the road is safe. Now, my understanding from an insider was that one of the main reasons that it wasn't passed is because the Dan Andrews government, which is Labor, felt that the Amy Gillett Foundation and the push for the particular law was something the Greens were really pushing, and they didn't want to give too much to the Greens, and that's why they've held back on it for so long. So it was, from an insider, it was really just a political thing. And in the meantime, our roads are just not that safe. And it's great that it's come in. So it's fantastic that it's come in. Make sure they enforce the law. That's going to be the challenge. It's really hard to actually enforce it unless you are a policeman, or if you're in a police car and you see someone passing a cyclist too close. So that is the next challenge. But I can honestly say, I went to a race in Mumbai once, and the day before I went for a ride, and I was kind of reckless, and I thought, you know what, I want to go and see Mumbai. So I just went out and rode on the streets of Mumbai. And for anyone that's been there, you know what it's like. If you haven't been to Mumbai, it is chaotic. There is just so much traffic, so many people there. So it looks frightening, it looks scary, and that was my first thought. When I first got out there, though, started riding, I immediately felt safe, because they don't care if it's a car or a motorbike or a truck or a cow or a cyclist. If you're in front of them, you're just in front of them, and they'll wait until you're out of the way to go past. And I felt safer riding in Mumbai than I do in any of Australia's capital cities, and that is terrible.
It's
cultural change needs to happen.
Yeah, long time coming, John.
Yeah, long time coming, and it's wonderful. But I've been on the bike a bit more of late, and I got to tell you, there's more people out around Geelong than I've seen on the bike in the past. But the one thing that the cyclists have to really take note of is that they've got to be more conscious of keeping to the left as well. Find a ride two abreast, you're allowed to ride two abreast, but there are plenty of cases where it's just not safe to ride two abreast. So you've got to go single file in lots of areas, and they've got to start doing it. So bikers can be their own worst enemy at times.
Well, does it really need to be? Yeah.
What I do, and I always say, even if I'm coming to an intersection on my own and a car is coming out from my left, so they have to give way to the right, which is me. If they're not cycling friendly, they might be feeling frustrated that they have to wait for a cyclist to come past, right? If it was a car, of course they'll wait because they'll stick to the road rules. But a cyclist, obviously, often they get a little bit, uppity about it. So I'll just give them a little wave, just like, oh, thank you for waiting. Even though they are supposed to, it is the law, and I have the right of way. I'll still just give them a little bit of a wave. Or if a truck gives me plenty of room. Not a one finger wave. No, well, if they get aggro, yeah, absolutely. But no, if a truck comes past and gives you plenty of room, or if they slow down to let you cross over if you have to, any of those little things, just a nice little wave, just to diffuse any tension.
De-escalate. Yeah. All right, boys, we're going to try something different for the DeTour DeLorean segment.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Now, normally I fish out vision that gets us blocked on YouTube, but instead this week, Johnny, you've got an unbelievable story that you told us off air, but we've heard it many a times and we never get sick of it. Take us back to the 2003 Giro d'Italia.
Yes, it was a great tour. It was the one where Cookie and Brad McGee and Matty Wilson were riding with FDJ. And we had Trent Wilson and Russell Van Hout riding with the longest name in cycling, but the team run by Gianni Savio, my old team boss. So anyway, a lot of Aussies there, and we had a good little motley crew cruising around. So I had Carl Wilson, so the father of one of the riders. Killer Carl, Tony McCafferty, Alan Lang, Tim the vet, who is a bit of a character, our mate Tim, and is not a veteran cyclist, just a veterinarian, and Steve the drunk.
I like how there's a guy in the group called Steve the drunk, and if from the outside in, I mean, you could have been slapped with all of that in that motley crew when they're charged for the Giro. But anyway,
well, you've got serious issues if you name Steve the drunk in that crew. That's very true. That's very true. So yes, we'd already had I'd broken a rib before the race even started, which wasn't a good start. But so anyway, it was the 18th of May. I know it because it was my birthday, and it was the rest day, and we're on the Adriatic coast, a little place called Milano Marittimo. Is a group of, it's like the Gold Coast of Italy there, just down below Venice a little bit. And rest day. So we go and have a couple of drinks with Gianni Savio and the team there. And the problem over there, when you have a cocktail or anything like, or a whiskey or anything, they fill it up with whiskey and just put a little bit of Coke on the top.
For colour.
That's fine. For colour, yeah. So it was a long lunch, and we stagger out of there, I don't know, about 4 o'clock or so. And the few of the team were a bit worse for wear. But we had all planned to go to there was a nightclub firing up that night. We all planned to go to this nightclub. So in the end, only Alan Lang and Al, R.I.P. God rest his soul, was probably well into his 70s by then. Myself and Steve.
It's like Dad's Army on some sort of Kentucky tour.
Drunken Dad's Army.
Yeah.
So we go to this nightclub, and I lose them in the nightclub for some reason. I'm at the bar and they're over chatting away, and I stagger back. It's early hours in the morning. It's probably 4 o'clock in the morning. It's all downhill to our hotel, the Hotel Lido. I just remember the name of it, right on the water. And so I walk in, and I'm just hopping into bed, and next minute Carl comes up and said, John, the owner has said that he had a call. There's an Australian journalist in hospital. I said, what's his name? And he said, Federico Langhi. I said, it must be an Austrian. I can't sleep. Anyway, an hour or so later, a couple of hours later, I get woken up and by the boys, and they said, there's no sign of Alan Lang. And I said to Carl, what was that name you said? Federico Lang. Because Alan Lang's name was actually Frederick Alan Lang, and they've gone Federico Langhi. And so, it is Al. So we go down. First of all, we try and wake up Steve, who's unconscious on the bed.
Steve the drunk.
And he's in his jocks, which was very unusual because every other night for the last week and a half, he was always unconscious in his fully clothed and didn't have a shower in the morning. This time he's actually in his jocks. So we wake him up. Where's Al? He said, I put him in a cab. So that must have been, just before I left. I missed him. And okay, so we don't know where he is. So we go down to the manager. We start, but Steve realises he's got no clothes. He's there, but his clothes are missing. So he goes down. He starts arguing with the owner of the hotel about who's someone stolen my clothes. He said, I want to call the police because you broke into another room. So when he got into the wrong room, the whole family asleep. Steve the drunk in his jocks and burst into the room. So that's caused a bit of a fracas. So we're trying to get through all of this. He wanted to ring the police about the broken door, and Steve wanted to ring the police because all his clothes, which his wallet with about €3,000 when it's missing. But it's all in broken English. Anyway, one of the teams is sitting there, the Magnaflex team, and had a couple of Swedes on there, including Magnus Backstead, who spoke perfectly. He's like an Aussie. He's been out here with Stuart O'Grady. So he says, Johnny, you got problems. So he comes over and starts doing all the translation. Well, it's so funny. So Tim the vet, he's getting very upset because he can't handle the pressure. So he goes for a walk over on the beach. He comes back about 5 minutes later with this bundle of clothes and the wallet that Steve, so he'd come back. It was a pretty warm night, stripped off, gone for a swim, walked out, forgot his clothes, left him on the beach. Well, he was apologising, offering money to the hotel owner. So then we jump in the car and we drive to the hospital. One hospital services all of those towns. We had to drive about 15k or something. As we pull up at the hospital, we get a call from the hotel telling us Langy's turned up. And so we drive back, and he's got a great big cut on his head, and he obviously fell out of the cab. I don't know what happened to him because he still had all his money and everything. And his nickname was the Riddler, Al.
Oh, yeah.
And that was one riddle. He left us about 4 or 5 years ago now, or maybe less, 3 or 4 years ago. But that was one riddle that never ever got answered. We never found out what actually happened to him on that day.
And he had the bandages on the whole rest of the Giro. Looked like a mummy, didn't he?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you found Steve the Drunk's clothes, so that's a good thing.
We found and his wallet.
And there's an Italian family that is still scarred from that experience.
From Steve the Drunk bursting in at 4 a.m.
His jocks.
Yeah. All right, boys. Prediction time. Scotty, you're on fire. Who do you like in this one? Wide open.
Well, Visconti's interesting with Jack Haig. Visconti was second on the stage up to Mount Etna in the early breakaway. It does look like it's all these guys except for Wilco Kelderman. I don't think they'd let him get in the break.
I can't see why he's in there because they're not going to let him go in the break. He's a GC contender.
Well, you don't have to bet on him. Let him go.
No, that's very true. That's very true.
Yeah.
Same with Fugslang and that. So they're talking about if the race comes back together and then the GC guys, go for it. But then if that was the case, you'd have Nibley up there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely, especially with the descent into the finish. So, look, maybe it's Thomas de Gent is the kind of guy I think might be a favourite from a breakaway group. It does look like it's a breakaway kind of stage. The gaps are big enough, as we heard from Whitey as well. Look, special note, though, that's not on there, but Jai Hindley is the highest placed Australian now. He's in 13th after the Mount Etna stage, so riding for Sunweb, the young Western Australian, so good ride by him. He's only 1 minute 29 off the lead, but that has him only 34 seconds from Vincenzo Nibali, who is now the race favourite. So to sit that close to the big favourite after a big mountain stage, he's a guy. Let's see what he can do tonight with the climb and keep himself in the mix. And Chris Harper from Adelaide, he is the highest placed rider from Jumbo Visma. We saw how strong they were at the Tour de France. And you got this South Australian fella. He's 4 minutes down, but in 28th place, the highest place of Visma. So haven't they had a bit of a turnaround, that team, since the Tour de France?
Is Kruijswijk behind him, is he?
No, actually, Kruijswijk must be in front of him. Where's he? Yeah, sorry. Yep. Forget what I just said. Don't worry about that. But Jack Haig at 8 minutes 30 down. He's far enough behind to maybe get in the break. Ben O'Connor is another Aussie for NTT that could get in the break. He's at 8:07. Might be given a bit of leeway. But the gaps for some of these guys aren't that big for them to just let them go for sure. There will have to be some controlling back in the peloton, and we still don't know which team that's going to do that. Trek Segafredo is probably the team that has to start controlling the peloton, but there's not a lot of depth in sort of these teams now. So the GC guys are going well, but there's not a lot of depth and domestiques in these teams. It's going to be really interesting.
Who do you think, Kiffy? Who was your tip?
Well, it's a shame that he's second favourite, but I like Jack Haig. I think we heard from Whitey he's really going to have a go at getting in the break. And if they get a really good, strong break, gets a big gap, he's a bit...
Sports Director Matt.
There.
Whoops, sorry, I pressed the wrong button. I went to press the stage profile. Sorry. That's the one.
Yeah, that's a major climb. So if he gets in a good break there, big chance he can get away from them in the final parts of that long climb and scoot away with a solo win. It'd be fantastic.
The climb is the Valizio di Monte Scura.
I think
that's the pronunciation. Yeah. And well, it's Mileto. The stage is 225 k's, by the way, guys. And Camilliatello Silano is the finish town. 225 k's, bit of a saw blade, that, isn't it? That's nasty.
It's as I've said before. Like, I'm just not a big fan of these monster long stages where you got to factor in the transfers. Like, that would just put me in such a stink because, you'd be up editing till 2, 3 in the morning. You've got to be on the road at 7:30. You got a long transfer after that. Day 5.
Suck it up, mate. Suck it up, Dan.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm not. That's why I'm not there anymore.
You're worried
any longer.
You're worried about Whitey. You're worried about your job when you're there. You're worried about Whitey as a DS. When do the riders get some compassion?
Oh well, yeah,
Do we
them
care
too.
about them?
No, them too. Knock off 70 k's off that stage. Just chop it 3/4 off at the start.
You'll get the same result. You will get the same result.
Yeah.
A flag that I heard, I noticed from Whitey. He said that he had swordfish. That's what they had the night before Etna. And Simon Yates had a shocker. And you actually said on the show the next day, maybe it was the swordfish. Well, they had swordfish again last night. So let's see how Yatesy goes today.
The worst seafood I ever had was at the Vuelta. I remember it was deep fried. It just looked like a bit of flake. And I ate it, and it was like real rubbery. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And then I looked at it again, and it was stingray. And that was it. Like dry reaching, like never mentally got over the experience of eating stingray. It was shocking.
You never got over Steve Irwin's death. I think that's probably
no, that's right. Yeah. Exactly. So, all right. Good show, boys. We'll be back again at 7:30 tomorrow night, and hopefully the swordfish does not derail Jack Hayes' chances of a stage win in stage number 5. We'll see you then.
This is the winning ride of the Tour de France.